Come bro. I say one TP. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.
Zamfara is hot again, and this time the talk where they go around is very serious. People are saying that villagers in Zamfara actually captured some of these so-called bandits and handed them over to the security forces. My people, that kind of story is not small at all. Imagine ordinary villagers tired of the suffering, tired of the attacks, coming together to catch men who have been terrorizing them. This is not just a normal gist. This is something that shows how desperate people are to take back their communities. And let me break it down so everybody understands. Zamfara State has been one of the places most affected by banditry in Nigeria. For years now, villages have been attacked, people have been kidnapped for ransom, farmers have been chased away from their lands, and children cannot even go to school in peace. Families have been destroyed, and countless people are now displaced, living far away from their homes. That is the pain people are carrying every single day. Now, when we hear this kind of gist that villagers managed to capture bandits, we have to look at the bigger picture. This tells us that the people are tired. They don't want to run anymore. They don't want to keep watching their families cry. And at the same time, it raises very important questions. How safe is it for civilians to confront armed groups? What happens to the suspects after they are handed over to security forces? Will there be justice, or will the cycle continue? But one thing is clear. The courage of these villagers shows how much frustration is in the land. And honestly, you and I know it's not easy to capture armed men if the community is not united. That means the people really came together to face them. And that, my people, is the kind of unity that makes the story powerful. If you're enjoying this gist, please don't forget to like this video right now and subscribe to the channel because it helps us reach more people with real news and real talk. Now let's take a step back and talk about why Zamfara keeps coming into the news. The bandit crisis did not start yesterday. It has been growing for years, beginning with cattle rustling, then moving to kidnappings for ransom, and later full-scale attacks on entire villages. Some of these gangs are heavily armed. They move through forests, sometimes in large numbers, and because the forests are so wide and difficult to monitor, they hide and operate almost like they own the territory. This is why it has been very difficult for the military and police to completely defeat them. From time to time, the Nigerian Air Force and the army launch airstrikes and ground raids against these groups. There are even reports where the military said they neutralized many of them, sometimes over 100 at once. But you see, for villagers who keep experiencing attacks week after week, those official numbers may not give them peace of mind. That is why sometimes they decide to defend themselves. And when people defend themselves, anything can happen. Sometimes they succeed and capture suspects. Sometimes it leads to more bloodshed. This is why the story of villagers capturing bandits is both inspiring and dangerous at the same time. Inspiring because people are taking a stand. Dangerous because it can lead to mistakes, mob actions, or retaliation from the gangs. But in this case, what is being said is that the villagers did not take the law into their hands. Instead, they handed the suspects to security forces. That is a very important point because it shows they still trust the authorities to deliver justice. And that is how it should be. Now let's talk about the human side of this. When these villages are attacked, you find families split apart. Mothers lose their children. Husbands cannot provide for their homes because they cannot farm, and children are forced to stay out of school. You can imagine the kind of pain that this brings. Some people have lived in displacement camps for years now. When you see their faces, you see people who just want normal life again. So when they come together and capture the same people making them suffer, handing them to security forces becomes almost like a cry for help. A way of saying, please government, do your part now. We have done ours. Don't forget, as you are listening, to like this video right now and also subscribe to this channel. That simple action from you can help us keep bringing this kind of real gist because more people will see it and the conversation will continue. Now, another thing we should talk about is the danger of mistaken identity. There have been times when security forces carried out airstrikes or raids and innocent villagers or vigilante groups were caught in the middle. This has caused heavy mistrust between communities and security agencies. Imagine losing loved ones not just to bandits, but also to the very forces meant to protect you. That is a double tragedy. That is why when villagers hand over suspects, they are also silently demanding accountability. They want to see fair trials, not just numbers being reported. And this is where the larger issue comes in. What is the role of community vigilante groups? Some people say they are necessary because the government alone cannot protect every village at the same time. Others say they are risky because they can turn into mob justice or escalate violence. But whichever way you look at it, in Zamfara, the reality is that people feel they have no choice. So, when we hear that villagers captured bandits and handed them to security forces, one strong message is being sent. The people are saying, we are tired, but we still believe in law and order. Because think about it. In many countries, if villagers catch someone that has been terrorizing them for years, the first reaction might be mob action. But in this case, handing them over is like saying, government, we are still giving you a chance. Do your work. But then, here is the big question. Will justice truly happen? Because if suspects are arrested and later released without trial, or if the case is not properly handled, what message does that send back to the villagers? It could make them lose faith completely. And once communities stop trusting security forces, the crisis becomes harder to manage. That's why accountability is so important. If villagers risk their lives to capture armed men and hand them over, they deserve to see justice being done in a transparent way. Now let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a small village in Zamfara surrounded by forest. At night, people live in fear, always looking at the bush, listening for motorbikes, because that's how bandits often arrive. Families hide food inside the ground or flee into the bush when they hear gunshots. Then, one day, instead of running, the villagers decide to join together. Maybe it's the vigilante group, maybe it's the young men and elders, maybe even women helping with information. They surprise the bandits, overpower them, and manage to capture some alive. For that community, that moment feels like freedom, like they finally took their lives back. Now, the journey doesn't end there. They walk those suspects to the police station or military checkpoint, hand them over, and expect the government to act. That picture alone shows you the desperation and the bravery. But also it shows you the trust the people are still willing to give to the government, even though trust has been broken many times before. And let me tell you, Zamfara is not alone. This is the same story you will hear from parts of Katsina, Sokoto, Kaduna, Niger. All these areas in the northwest have been facing the same challenge. Communities taking risks, security forces trying their best, sometimes succeeding, sometimes making mistakes. And in the middle of it all, innocent people suffering. If you are listening right now, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. That way, more people will hear these real stories and we can keep this conversation alive. It is not just about the news, it is about awareness. And awareness is the first step to finding solutions. Now let's talk about solutions. What really can be done? Some people say send more troops, flood the area with security presence. Others say negotiation is the only way to talk to these groups and offer amnesty. Others believe the solution is development. Give young men jobs, open up schools, build roads, and let people feel hope again. The truth is, maybe it needs all three: security, dialogue, and development. But the hard part is making them work together in a way that actually protects people. Meanwhile, villagers are tired of waiting. And that is why stories like this, of them capturing bandits, are becoming more common. It is a dangerous sign, but also a hopeful one. Dangerous because it means people are ready to risk their lives. Hopeful because it means they are not ready to give up completely. And another angle we cannot ignore is the fear of retaliation. After villagers capture bandits, their villages become targets. Bandit groups may try to attack again in revenge. That is why it is very important that once villagers hand over suspects, security forces must stay close, patrol, and give those villages protection. Otherwise, it becomes a cycle of revenge and innocent people pay the price. So let me ask you watching right now, what do you think? Should villagers continue defending themselves and handing suspects to security forces, or do you think it is too risky that the government alone should handle security? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your perspective. And as you are writing that comment, please remember to like this video and subscribe. It really means a lot. Now, let us touch the human emotion one more time. Imagine a father in Zamfara who cannot farm his land because bandits may show up.